So for anybody who's been in the last two sessions, in which are, I think, both available online, in the first one, we looked at how to use free tools and open data, a kind of introduction to ways in which open data can be understood and visualized. And then the last session last week was very much more about where do you find the data that you need, and that took a format much more of people speaking amongst themselves within the particular areas of interest that they have. Today, the session today is about how to present the data that's available to you and how to present it professionally, whereas in the first session I had a very kind of scripted and prepared PowerPoint presentation and ran through an enormous amount of kind of information that was covering geographical, statistical geography, and the use of various different tools and so on. Today's much more practical, and I'm going to be doing a kind of a much more hands-on kind of session where I'm going to be using some real examples in real time, and I don't have any kind of, this is what I prepared earlier examples. Everything's going to be kind of happening as it happens. And as Jen said, I'd really appreciate it if there are any questions or comments or feedback as I'm going along, if people could raise a hand and comment. So today we're going to be looking at how to convert open data into useful graphics for a professional presentation, or for putting on a website, or for whatever use. I'm going to be, whereas the description of the talk, I think talks about using free programs, I'm going to be talking a little bit about using Excel because most people have access to Excel. But then moving on to free resources which are online in order to turn the data into useful and useful visuals. If I stumble along the way because of the fact that this is a kind of live show, please be patient with me. I think it's normal to find obstacles as you work through a process, and then to overcome them, and that might happen during the course of what I'm going to be demonstrating to you. So today, as a first kind of exercise, I want to know where the participants here, where all of you are in Scotland, or wherever you are, and I want to display it on a map. So that's my first kind of exercise. Because of the fact that I don't want to kind of identify you too specifically with regard to your exact coordinates, because that might compromise your privacy, we're going to be talking about council areas if you're in Scotland or being outside of Scotland. So I'm going to share my screen now. Not that screen, share. And I'm going to open up an internet browser. And what I want to start off by doing, because of the fact that I've decided that I want to know what local authority area you're in, I want to know, I want to be able to mark on a map where that local authority area is. And because I know that most of you are in Scotland, then I'm going to be focusing that on Scotland. So I'm going to type into Google Scotland local authority boundaries. I want to know where the middle of those are. So I'm going to write the word centroids, and the word data always works quite well for finding things. So now this has directed me to a UK government website, local authority districts, where as this page opens, this is from the Office of National Statistics, and the map at the top of the screen here might start to display, so it's starting to display those different boundaries of local authorities in Great Britain, in the United Kingdom. Now, I don't actually need the boundaries for the exercise that I'm doing, but what I want to know is where the central points of each local authority in Scotland are. So I'm going to click on download and just click on spreadsheet, which is the kind of the simplest. And so I've got a file that's just downloaded that you might be able to see on the bottom left of my screen, which if I open the folder, sorry, this folder is overloaded, but this is what I've just downloaded. Local Authority Districts, December 2017, boundaries in Great Britain. Now, if I just open that directly in Excel, which is the default program for opening it, then it will open it in a way where I can see that the local authority districts throughout the United Kingdom are listed by name, and they each have a code. Now, that code is something that I spoke about in an earlier presentation, which is demonstrated in this graphic, which is published regularly by the Office of National Statistics, which is about all of the different statistical geographies that are used in the United Kingdom by government agencies. And I think that so here Scotland has 32 council areas, which are administrative geography, and they start with a code which is S12. So, for example, Edinburgh is S12, 4 zeros and a 36. So I'll leave that screen. And so here, if I look for S12, I think it was 4006. Well, these S12s are Scottish local authority areas. Now, opening this file in this way in Excel isn't actually the best way to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a new blank workbook in Excel. And then I'm going to click on the tab that says Data. And I'm going to say From Text CSV. CSV stands for comma separated values. And it's really the simplest way of data being shared by organizations for various different uses, because whereas the Excel file format, the Excel file format is designed for use in Microsoft projects, whereas CSV is designed for use anywhere. So if I go to my downloads file, then the one with the most recent date, which is this one here, is that file that I've just downloaded. So I'm going to click on import. And I find this to be a really useful tool, especially with large data sets, for viewing and filtering out what you need. So often you download these files and you don't really know what's in them. And sometimes they're too large to actually fit into an Excel spreadsheet. But the information within them is useful. So it's come up with this screen here, which gives a little sample of what's in this particular data set. And so we can see that there's a number, which is just a consecutive kind of ID count. There's something called LAD17CD, which is the local authority district code as defined in 2017. And these first ones that we're seeing on the list start with an E, which means England. And then we have an LAD17NM, which is the name of the local authority district in a human readable way. Moving further along, we've got BNGE and BNGN. Stepping back a moment, we have LAD17NMW, which means the W stands for Welsh. So none of these places have a different name in Welsh. If we were looking at places in Wales, then there would be things in that column. Sorry, so to carry on, the BNG stands for the British National Grid. So these are the national grid coordinates of the centres of these local authority areas. And then we have long and lat, which are longitude and latitude, which are concepts that I explained in the first talk that I gave in the first workshop. Then we have the area, which is in square meters, which is quite useful sometimes if you have populations for places, because you can work out the population density. And this thing called ST length shape is the total perimeter of the boundary. Now I'm going to click on this button that says transform data. And we're going to stay within this Power Query Editor part of Excel. And this is just standard Excel. Anybody who's got Excel has these tools. And there are similar tools in other spreadsheet programs, like the ones provided by Google, for example, which are free. So now what we're seeing is that same data, but a bit more of it, and we're able to process it and filter it. So I'll get rid of things which are of no interest to me. So this column here, the name in Welsh, isn't interesting to me. So I'm going to click on Remove Columns and get rid of that one. And then I'm not actually interested in the area or the length of the perimeter, so I'm going to remove those. I'm not interested in the British National Grid measurements because we're going to be using the type of coordinates that are used typically on which are most interchangeable, which are the coordinates that you could use on a Google map, for example, to find a particular location. And then the numbering that they've given to these isn't interesting to me either. And so now, having filtered this down, I have this code, which is important to me because it's going to link up with other bits of data. I've got the human readable name of the place, and I've got the longitude and the latitude. But I don't want to have England, Northern Ireland, or Wales in this particular exercise. And so I'm going to switch off all of these codes here. And I've got all of these E's, which are England. And then when I get down to Scotland, which start with S, I'm going to switch them on. So I'm scrolling down to the bottom of the S's, pressing the Shift key. Oh, and it's not working. But I know there's only 32 of them, so I'm just going to select them manually. So now I've got a 32, a list with a length of 32 of places of local authorities in Scotland with the coordinates of the centre of those places. So I now click on Close and Load, and it will load it into the Excel spreadsheet. in a nice kind of sortable way. So these little tabs at the top, I can click on them in order to order by the places, and I'm going to organise the local authorities of Scotland alphabetically by their names. So now I'm going to do an online trial using Mentimeter to find out where you all are. I've set it up earlier. I should be able to bring it up on the screen here. So I've created this question, which is, where are you? So if you would be kind enough to go to www.menti.com and use this code 80507008, and then answer the question of where are you? Now, unfortunately, Mentimeter has a total number of questions that you can ask of 30, and there are 32 local authority districts or councils in Scotland. So if you are in one of the two counties which begin with the word West, if you could fill in your location, your council in the chat section, then I'll be able to use that. So that's West. Jen, can you help me out? What are the two Wests?
West Lothian and
Dunbartonshire.
Yes. The other thing to say as well is, if you're not in Scotland, please put that in the chat as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
No worries. We do have a West Lothian. Pamela's in West Lothian. There we go.
Excellent. So we've got 27 answers so far, and
gosh, we've got people all the way.
50 participants, so there's a few people to go. It might be useful for you to know that it's quite a long list. You've got to scroll right down to the bottom of the list in order to click on select.
We've got someone from Salford, someone from Brighton, someone from Cheshire, someone from Sunderland, and someone from London. So we've got quite a few people south of the border today.
Okay.
Belfast. It's a really good spread. I think we've got our winner, Tim.
It looks like it. Yeah, it looks like Edinburgh is the capital of charities in Scotland, or at least charities.
Are you going to start a debate in here? York.
Okay, it looks like we might now have enough figures. So I'm going to go back to that Excel spreadsheet that I created. And this is going to be not particularly interesting for you to watch because I'm just going to manually fill in this information, because without subscribing to a paid Mentimeter account, I wasn't able to. So I'll create a new column called attendees, and I've got them all in the right order, so I'm just going to fill those in as I see on the screen. Argyll and Bute 2. Edinburgh 11. Next one. 0, 0, 2. 0, 0, 0. 1, 2, 1. This will all be worthwhile when I've completed it. You'll see. So where am I at? Inverclyde. Wait. So I had the 1, 2, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 2, 0, 0, 2, 3. Oh, I've got something wrong. Oh no, I haven't, because that's Stirling. And so how many have we got in West Dunbartonshire, Jen? Have we got any?
None, as far as I can see.
And West Lothian?
1.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just save this spreadsheet. And I'm going to save it in, I'm going to create a new folder on my desktop where I'll be saving everything that that I'm creating today. Oh, I've just saved this. It doesn't matter. So I've got this as an Excel spreadsheet, and now I'm going to go to I'm going to open a program that I'm going to be used in order to be able to visualize this data. And the program I'm going to be using is called Data Wrapper. It's a website, datawrapper.de. And this is a great resource which doesn't cost any money for creating all sorts of attractive graphics for visualizing data. In order to use this program, it does have pricing, but the free tier is really very generous with unlimited visualizations. You can export your visualizations as PNG, which is kind of quite high quality graphics that can be used on the internet. It does include a little tag at the bottom of every image that you create saying created with Data Wrapper, but that's not a worry. So I've created an account with this. They don't ask for any credit card details or anything like that to create an account, just an email address. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new map to see where everybody is. Now within the maps, they've got 3 different kinds of maps that you can create. There are chloropleth maps, which can demonstrate the intensity of certain different variables within geographically defined areas. Symbol maps, where you can have symbols which get bigger and smaller and have different colors to demonstrate the number of different things or the category of different things. And locator maps, which are quite attractive for positioning things so that the people that you interact with can easily locate what they're looking for. I'm going to choose, to start with, a symbol map. And so I click on the symbol map link, and then it asks me, what kind of map do you want to create? I want to create a map of Scotland. So I'm going to write Scotland here, and I can see they've already got uploaded local authority districts, NHS regions, and MSOAs, which is a statistical geography that's used in the UK. I'm interested in local authority districts here because that's what we've classified. So I could also find a map from somewhere else and upload it. But this particular program is a bit limited because it only allows a limit of 2 megabytes. And a lot of the kind of files for mapping are bigger than that. So when you get into that, a bigger scale, it's better to watch the first video that I did and look at and introduce yourselves to QGIS, which is a free mapping program. So now I'm going to click on Proceed. So what it's asking me now to do is to add my data. It says import your data set. So I'm going to click on that. And in this case, I have latitudes and longitudes for the centers of these local authority areas because I found them earlier. So I'm going to click on latitudes and longitudes. If you only have place names, and those place names are quite well defined, then this particular piece of software will find those places for you. So it opens this window, and please copy and paste your data set in. If you only had a small amount of things, that might be the easiest thing to do. But alternatively, click here to upload a CSV file. So I click on there, and in my desktop folder, I haven't got a CSV file because I saved it as an Excel file. So I'm going to go back to my Excel file, which isn't that one. The one where I typed in the number of attendees from each place. And I'm going to go to File, Save As, and save this file in a different format, in the CSV, the comma delimited format that this program is asking for. So just click on Save. And it warns me that the selected file type doesn't support workbooks with multiple sheets. This is about these tabs at the bottom. So when I save something as a CSV, if I open it again in Excel, it will only have the page that I've the page that I've saved. It won't have the other ones. So I've now saved it as a CSV. I'll go back to the here, and so now I'm importing my data set. Alternatively, click to upload a CSV file, desktop, workshop CSV, open. And what it's asking me to do in this first window is to identify which one of these columns is latitude, and it's the one that's called lat, as it was labeled by the UK government when they created the file. I'm going to click next. Which one's longitude? It's the one that's called long. Done. Let's go. So now, with a little bit of luck, we can see all of the places where people are represented, where you, the participants in this workshop, are at the moment, in terms of the center of the local authority area that you're in. And here on the left-hand side, we can see all of these codes that are the codes of those local authority districts. I could here add a column if there was other information that I wanted to add manually, or I could add a new point if somebody else had turned up from somewhere else. So I'm quite happy with that data set. I'm going to click on Proceed. And now I've got this map which I can fiddle with and make more visually appealing, or explain, give the message more clearly. So in the options that I've got here, I could change the symbols from circles to squares, for example. I'll leave them at circles. And I can size them by various different things. So let's try sizing them by attendees. And now all of a sudden we can visualize very easily the location of the attendees at this session. Other options that I've got here, I can change the maximum symbol size, so I can scale everything up or down. And I could give, if I had another way of categorizing, if I knew, for example, which sector was predominant in that particular place, then I could color these in order to demonstrate that. If I decide to make the map zoomable, then I can zoom in and out on it. And then I can format in terms of the kind of the layout, the graphic design of this by dragging on this arrow to make something that's narrower or wider, or indeed that includes the Shetlands. And I can change the padding, which is the amount of space around the outside of the map, which makes the map larger or smaller. And that might be useful once you've exported this as an image at the end of your work. And if you wanted to add some additional text or notes or other images. In the Annotate box here, this is where this program is really useful, because it's really asking me all of the things that I basically need if I'm going to be presenting some data to somebody. So it asked me to give a title. I'll call it Where Attendees Are From. It asked me to give a description if I want to. So I'll say results from Mentimeter poll. And it's formatting everything quite nicely for a presentation. If I add some notes in there, then if you end up using this as something in a website, for example, then it will come up with additional information in the notes. Data source, who published the data? I'm Tim, I'll say Tim. A link to the data source. Now, had this information come from a particular government agency or something, then I'll put in my company's website, and so now if somebody clicked on Tim, then they'd get a direct link to the website of Tim. I'm going to change that to the company name and who created the chart, created by Tim. And so now we've got a note at the bottom that the map was created by Tim. We've got the source that it comes from with a link to the URL of that source. And then we can add an alternative description for screen readers, for people who are limited in their sight. The text annotations here are very useful. We can click on this note, and then I can put a box in here, and I can say Edinburgh wins, and that will end up being part of the graphic that we export at the end. If I click on layout, then there are various other options that are open to me. In the footer, I've got data download, which means that there's this little thing here that says get the data. I could switch that off and get the data will go. Put it back on. If you were to click on get the data, you'd be able to actually download the raw data that's created this particular graphic. So I'm quite happy with all of that. I click on proceed. And because of the fact that the company that provides this service have got my email address, which was required for registering. Within 15 minutes, I'll get an email which will have a downloadable, attractive image of this graphic, which is called Where Attendees Are From. And if it hasn't come within 15 minutes, then I click on Resend the email. So that's the end of that exercise. Are there any comments or questions or any feedback? Would anybody like to suggest alternative ways of doing this kind of thing? I'm not looking at the comments, unfortunately. I can't find them.
There's nothing in the chat at the moment.
Okay. Well, I'll carry on then. Oh, somebody's chatted something. I've got it now. Oh, so, okay, we've got a question. Can this be done at a more local geographical level, sub-local authority? And yes, it can, absolutely. This particular platform doesn't have sub-local authority areas in it, but there are many sub-local authority geographies. So if I return to the presentation about statistical geographies, there's lots and lots of data which is published in what are called statistical building blocks. And so these include, in Scotland, output areas, which have an average population of 118 people, data zones, which have an average of 782 people, and intermediate zones with 4,264 people. And the shapes for these files could be imported into this software, but you'd probably need to go through another process first in order to reduce the number of shapes you've got, because otherwise the file would be too big. So I would recommend, once you start working with smaller geographies and larger data sets, to move away from the simple online option that I'm describing and try out QGIS, which has got lots of online support available from people around the world who know how to use it. So it's described in the first video that I did. Okay, so now in the next step, I'm going to look at these same local authority areas in a different way, and I'm going to look at how I find some data that might be interesting to me and download it and use it for these purposes with the other kind of map, the chloropleth map. So in the last session, there was a talk about there was quite a lot of conversation about older people and about the kind of public services that maybe weren't functioning well enough, to do with public transport and access to food, I suppose, kind of both in terms of supermarkets, but also maybe in terms of food banks and things like that. I thought it might be interesting to look at how older people in Scotland feel about their local authority, because I'm focusing this on local authorities at the moment. So I did a Google search earlier, which I'll repeat now. Which I was aware of the fact that there was something called the Scottish Household Survey. So the Scottish Household Survey is an annual cross-sectional survey that provides robust evidence on the comparison, characteristics, attitudes, and behaviour of private households. So within this Scottish Household Survey, statistics.gov.uk, statistics.gov.scot. Oh, sorry, I've opened up the same website again. Is one of those stumbling moments that I was describing earlier that were bound to happen because of the fact that I didn't want to have anything totally pre-loaded. So this website, statistics.gov.scot, provides a very wide range of different data about government data about all sorts of different fields. And so the one that I was particularly interested in was about how people feel their local authorities are performing, which was in the household survey. And I was interested in this local authority services and performances in the Scottish Household Survey. This is really selected quite arbitrarily, but as an example. So I'm within here, on this website, you can supposedly click on various different factors in here and put these little padlocks on them in order to create a customized data set for your interest. So I'm interested in people who are older, so 65 years and older. And I've got that marked, and I'm interested in how they feel about the services that their council is providing. If I click on that, this is all a little bit sluggish. There are these various different statistical kind of confidence limits and things, but I'll just go with a simple percent. So what percentage of people over 65 years say my council provides high quality services? And then they've got all of these different reference periods. I'll choose the latest, which is 2019. Now, this might not happen on your computer, but I ought to have something here to be able to download this. It's not here though. I can download the entire data set. I think I'll probably let the statistics.gov.scot know that this isn't working on my computer. So I'm going to download the entire data set because it's not filtering those things out for me, and so I'll have to do it myself. So now it's downloaded this file in my browser. And what I'll do is I'll go back to Excel and run through that process that I did before with the simple data. I'll say I'll close these windows, open a new. So I'm going to create a new blank workbook and then go through that same process that I went through before. I'm going to say data from text CSV. And then in downloads, where I put it, collect that file. And it's going to open up this window where we can see what we've got from that particular download. So these are the columns that it's given me. And I can see that it's organized in a way where I'm starting off with this feature code where I've got S12000039, or 4 zeros perhaps. If I go back to the statistical geography part of what I mentioned before, that S92000003 is Scotland. But this is S12, sorry. I'm going to click on transform data. And so what it's giving me here is for this place, which is S12000039, which I don't know where it is. It's not giving me that information. It's not giving me the name of the council, but it's giving me that code. So that code's going to be very important for linking up with the other data, with the places that we're trying to identify. In the date codes, it's given me, I can see a full range of dates. So I've got 2013, 18, 15, and what I wanted was only the last one. So I'm going to click on select all and only have 2019. In the measurement, it's given me all of those different statistical confidence limits, and I don't want them, I just want the percent. So I'm going to filter those out. This percent of adults, yeah, that's what I asked for. That column's useless to me because it's the only, they only provide a percent of adults. And the value, well, that's very important because that's the percentage of adults who have voted for, who have selected that particular option. This measurement percent isn't actually useful to me either, so I'm going to remove that. So now here in local authority services and performance, there are these various different answers, like my council designs services around users' needs. And I wasn't interested in all of those. I was only interested in my council provides high quality services. So I'm going to get rid of all of the other ones. In the age, I wasn't interested in everybody. I'm only interested in over 65. So I'm going to filter out to only have 65 years and older. The gender isn't differentiated. It's only all, so I'll get rid of that. And these columns are also of no use to me, so I'm going to get rid of them. So now I've kind of cleaned up this data in a way where I'm seeing the code of the place, actually the dates now, because of the fact that I've filtered it to 2019, I could get rid of that column. And the question about whether your council provides high quality services, that's the only thing that's left in the filter, so I'll get rid of that as well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click close and load, and then within the normal Excel sheet, it will hopefully provide me with 32, 33 perhaps, local authority areas with their code and with the value. And actually, I don't need the age either, so I'll just delete that because I know that they're all over 65. So this is the proportion of people who are over 65 who said that their local authority area provided good services. So I'm going to now save this spreadsheet again as a CSV. And I'll save it in desktop, and I'll call it so I did that wrong because I didn't save it as a CSV. So now I'm going to go back to this program, the data wrap program, and I'm going to make a new map. This will be a chloropleth map. So I'm going to type in here Scotland and select Scotland local authority districts as I did before. And I'm going to proceed. So now again, back in the same place I was before, where I could manually type in values, or I can import my data set. So am I going to import my data set by linking names or codes? I've only got codes on that particular table. So I'll say start import, upload a CSV file, and it was this one, older people, local authority 2019, open. So these are the codes that I want to match to the codes that this website's got in it, and these are the values. Import your data set. These are the values. If I had other values, then I would select the one which I want to be illustrating on the map. Congratulations, you've imported your data set. So it seems like the data set is in there, but at the moment we can't see anything. So I'm going to click on proceed. And now what it's done is the answer to that particular question, which was my council provides high quality services, was answered in various different local authority areas of Scotland in such a way that people in the furthest islands were 80% satisfied with those services, whereas people in this region were only 28% satisfied. And as somebody asked before, this same process can apply to any kind of geography. You just need to have the data to feed the machine. So I'm going to go through the various annotations now. I think maybe if I'm trying to describe something which is people being dissatisfied rather than satisfied, it might be good to invert the colors, because at the moment we're looking at satisfaction, which might have been the target, but it's not my target. So if I'm going to call this, for example, dissatisfaction over 65 with their council. So here in the description, I'll copy and paste the particular question, and I'll say response to my council provides high quality services. I could add notes. Now, in this case, it's probably quite important to add a data source, because it will provide on the one hand, it might be legally necessary. I don't think it actually is in this case, but it will provide more credibility when this particular piece of information is published. So the data source, I think I could say that it's the Local Authority Services and Performance Scottish Household Survey. So I'll copy that from here. And I could just copy that web link that's been created in order to identify this specific data. And I could paste that into the data source. And so now here at the bottom of the map, I've got the source kind of properly written. And a click on that source will provide a link for the user to be able to identify the data themselves. I'll say that the data was created by place and purpose, and an alternative description for screen readers. Map labels. Now, I could add a label to this map, but I've only actually got 2 bits of data in my thing. I've either got the feature code, which is that S000 number, which isn't very human readable, or otherwise I've got the value, which is the percentage of people who felt this way. It might have been good earlier on to add in another column, which was the name of the local authority, in order to make it clearer. If I go back to refine, now I wanted the places that are where people are more dissatisfied to stand out. And so what I can do is I can, here in select palette, I could choose different colors. I could say have these colors because the darker colors look more kind of angry. But the problem I've got here is that the angry colors are in the places where the people are least angry. So what I can do is, clicking on this little icon here, I can reverse those colors so that the places where people are really very content are not kind of driving the narrative. But then the key's looking a bit odd because it's going from 28 to 80, and maybe it would be better. You might well feel that it shouldn't be reversed, but the key can be also reversed. So if I go to, I think, there's somewhere here where I can change the key. I'll leave it as it is, but because I can't find it right now, but it exists that you can flip the key around. We can format as before and so on, but changing the shape of the page for when it's finally turned into a downloadable document. And then these little tools at the bottom here are really useful, because if you were doing something that you were going to put on a website, which is often viewed on mobile phones, then you can view what the output is like on those different devices. And this here is very important, which is to do with colorblind people, because you might have chosen a color scheme that wouldn't be easily read by people with color blindness. So you can look at the various different kinds of color blindness and the way that this map would appear to people. So it's quite clear here that people with various, the colors here have been designed by the data wrapper organization to be equally visible by people with whichever kind of color blindness they might have. So I've done the annotation, and the layout. I could add a logo if I wanted to, and there are various different options. And so I'll go to publish and embed, and hopefully within 15 minutes I'll get an email with this map about dissatisfaction of over 65s with their council. So that's the end of the second demonstration. There's one more to go, which is moving away from maps and looking at other kinds of data, or other kinds of visualization. So if there are any questions in the chat, no, I don't think there are. Would anybody like to raise a hand, say anything? Does the email have an embed code for the maps? Let me see if I'm going to move this to my other screen, so I'm not sharing my personal details with people, and see if I've received an email, and then I can demonstrate. I'm afraid to say I haven't received their email yet in order to be able to demonstrate it. I have done in the past, but I haven't still got them on my account. But yes, it provides an embed code, and you can also download the image as a PNG file, which is a bit like a JPEG or a TIFF, those typical kind of graphic formats that can be used in anything. So I can see some really nice comments from people, but not questions. So I'll carry on. I'm going to, because of the fact that the largest representation of people here are from Edinburgh, I'm going to focus in on Edinburgh and look at various different responses of people from Edinburgh with regard to how they feel about how their local authority operates. And so because of the fact that we're only looking at one place, we're not going to be looking at a map. We're going to be comparing data in a different kind of format. So I'm going to go to Excel again. I'll close these sheets. And I'll go through the same process again, and I'm going to get that same file, but I'm going to be looking at something different this time. I'm going to be looking just at Edinburgh. So click on From Text CSV, and while that's loading, I'm going to go back here and check out what the code I haven't labeled it properly. Wait, got things in the way. No, that's not giving me the answer. I'll carry on with this. I'm going to go back to the downloads folder. And that file that I downloaded earlier, exactly the same file, but this time I want to look at data in a different way. So we're back at this page here, and I'll click on Transform Data the Power Query editor. And this time, what I want to do is isolate the various different views of people from Edinburgh with regard to the 5 or 6 different questions that they were asked. So I know that I've got another Excel file where I can look up. Hopefully it's here. If anybody if any of the participants actually know off by heart what the local authority code is for Edinburgh, actually, I'm being silly. I don't need to talk about Edinburgh. I'll talk about this place, which is, I don't know where it is, but it's 12,039. So in feature code, what I'm going to do is I'm going to so it's only saying 12,039 at the moment because it hasn't loaded the whole list. So I'm going to click on more, and then it's got all of those different codes for the 32 different local authorities. So I'm going to switch them all off, and I'll select, well, it won't be 39 anymore. I'll select one in the middle, the 33, which I don't know where it is, I'm afraid. And so within this, this particular geographical area, we've got various different dates. I'm just going to look at 2019. So I'm repeating everything that I did before. So I've got rid of all of the stuff that's not 2019. With regard to the statistical measurement, I'm only interested in the simple percentage, so I'll switch off the confidence limits. I'm still interested in the percent of adults because I haven't got the percent of children, so that column is rubbish, as is that one, and since I've already limited it to 2019, as is that one. So I have local authority services and performance, and these are the 5 different questions, or 6, I'm not sure how many are being asked. Now I can see that they're being repeated quite a lot of times, and that's because of the way that the data is structured, that I'm still, it's still covering all of these different age groups. So I'm going to switch off select all, and I'm only interested in over 65s to answer my question. And so now I've thinned down there are actually 9 different questions. So in this geographical area, which ends in a number 33, which I still don't know where it is, but I would have found out earlier if I was doing this in a non-live situation. I'm looking at 65 years old and older, answering these various different questions in this particular geographical area, and these are the percentage of the answers. I can get rid of these columns, gender, and so on, because they're not telling me anything. So now I've got a really simple little sheet with a lot of information about this particular place. So I'll click close and load. And oh, this is the wrong file, sorry. And here it is. I think, yes. I don't need that age column either, so I can just delete that from here. And then this little green blob here, I'm going to import it back into that website, which is going to create a graphic to demonstrate this for me. So now, one other thing that I intended to do was to, but I forgot as I've been doing it, was to add Scotland. So the value for Scotland as a whole. So I'm going to put in some imaginary values because I don't want to be wasting your time looking those things up. So I'll say so just imagine that those are real real data. Now I need to say File, Save As, and saved on my desktop. And so it's this place called place 33 opinions. And I'm going to save that as a comma separated value file again. So save. It's warning me again that this is going to stop it from being an Excel spreadsheet with various different tabs at the bottom. That's fine. I'm going to close that and return to the internet, where I'll go into Data Wrapper and I'll say New Chart. There are many other alternatives to this particular program that I'm showing you, Data Wrapper, but this one works particularly nicely, especially because of its annotation functions, where you're prompted to put all the things that you really should put into a graphic by the program itself, so you don't need to remember. And the result's quite attractive. So in this case, it would have actually accepted an Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to click on Place 33 Opinions, open. And it's loaded this this table up with the value of the votes, and these are the imaginary numbers that I put in for Scotland as a whole. So if we were if we were working in a different language, we could change that. There aren't really any other. Everything looks fine here. So I'll just click on Proceed. And now I can create different kinds of charts. I mean, this kind of thing you can do very easily in Excel, but in terms of kind of labeling things and making them kind of and laying them out nicely, this is an easy way of doing it. And if you were going to be producing charts and maps, then you end up with the same kind of styling, the same colors and lines and things like that. So I've just clicked on the first option, which is a simple bar chart, and it's not really telling me anything because it's got the wrong key. It's got the wrong the wrong name for each bar in the bar chart. But I can change that by clicking on Refine, and it says Bars, Select Column. So no, that's not the one. Labels. Okay, so now we have the question for this particular place and the answer. So the thing is, what do people, I don't know what the place is, I'm afraid. So that's created an easily viewed visualization of that data that was downloaded as just a load of numbers. If I click on Layout, then somewhere, perhaps in Refine, here, Sort Bars. So I can click on that, and so in this particular place, the thing that people are most satisfied with is that it does its best with the money available, and the least satisfied is that they can influence decisions affecting their local area. Now, I think that in the data that I uploaded, I think that I also included the data for Scotland. So I'm not sure if this is going to work. Right, so now I've got a comparison in dark blue of this particular place and in light blue of Scotland. But this is obviously wrongly presented because we're not adding up these two bars to create a whole. So possibly grouped bars would be a better option. So in this particular place, whereas 31% of people are satisfied with what the council does with its money, in Scotland in general, it was 50. Of course, that was my invented figure rather than the actual figure. But you can see how this could be useful. And then there are all sorts of other interesting ways of portraying data, which might be more or less relevant depending on the particular scenario. So here, this looks like quite a nice way of presenting it, although no, it's rather confusing to read. I wouldn't choose this because of the fact that you've got to associate these colors, which are too numerous, with these with the colors in the chart at the bottom. Now, if you were to go through the kind of publishing and embedding process, then in the same way as this chart is interactive, I can move my mouse over it and it tells you something and highlights things, then that would happen the same if you were to embed it into a website, or possibly even in an email if you had an HTML email, but that often doesn't work depending on who the email program of the person who's receiving it. Again, I would remind you that it's important to explain, especially where the data's come from, to accredit the data to a particular organization. So and again, it's nice to actually have a link where somebody reading it, for the benefit of open data users, if people are sharing this data with you, if governments are sharing this data, I think it's always good to be able to share it back with other people who see this and think, oh, there might be something interesting in there that I could use in a different way. And with that, I've actually finished my demonstration of visualizing data, and I hope it's been useful. And I'd like now, in the remaining 7 or 8 minutes, if there are people who are interested in in hanging on and having a chat between us, then that would be great. Otherwise, thank you very much for attending. This will be posted online, and so are the other 2 presentations that I've given over the last 2 weeks, which covered different subjects. So thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tim. Yeah, I will post links to where you can find, just popping them in here. It's under the Third Sector Lab website under training. I'm just popping.
So I have a question. Margenka's got her hand up.
Margenka, actually, it's not a question, Tim. It's just to say thank you. It's really, really helpful and interesting. So thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for the comment. That's great.
Brilliant. Yeah, so does anybody else have any questions at the moment? As Tim said, we're going to hang about just until past. If anybody wants to maybe talk in a smaller group. The other thing I'm just going to post in the chat is a link to a really short feedback form. It'll take you less than 2 minutes, but it'd just be great to get your thoughts on how you felt the session was today. And yeah, we really hope that it was useful. Thanks so much for coming, and enjoy your weekend when it comes. Thanks.